This IELTS listening practice is not endorsed by IELTS. Listening Section 1. You are going to hear a woman inquiring about getting invisible braces. First, take some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 10.
Good morning, Dr. Phillipsbury. How may I help you?
Good morning, I was wondering if your clinic does those invisible braces? My parents couldn't afford to get my teeth straightened when I was a child and I'd really like to do it now. They are not badly crowded, but it does bother me.
Yes, we do, and your issue sounds like one that invisible braces could fix. Do you know much about them?
Not really, I guess what is most important to me is the cost. Are they very expensive?
No, they cost the same as regular braces, and you pay for them monthly, not upfront, so that does make it easier. Also, if you have health insurance with dental cover, you may be able to claim back some of the cost of the braces, up to 50% in some cases.
That sounds good, I have dental, so hopefully I can get some of the money back. Does it take a long time?
Well, that depends on the severity of the issue, but in general it takes the same time as regular braces. Sometimes it can be faster. That is, of course, assuming you wear the retainer as you're supposed to.
Retainer? So, they're not braces?
No, they're clear retainers, like a very, very thin mouthguard, but they don't cover your gums at all. You have to take them out to eat and clean your teeth. We find our patients prefer them because they don't interfere with eating or cleaning your teeth. You can still eat whatever you like, and don't need special equipment to clean your teeth.
That does sound better than braces.
Yes, it really is. But you do need to wear them for at least 20 hours a day, or else they just won't work.
But if it's a retainer, how does it move the teeth?
Well, the system uses a series of retainers, all aligned slightly differently to move the teeth a little bit at a time.
Does that mean I will need to have a lot of visits to the dentist?
No, you have the same number of visits as for braces. The dentist will give you 3 sets of retainers and a schedule for changing them so that you don't have to visit for every change of retainer.
And how can it be invisible? I mean, mouthguards are so obvious and uncomfortable.
We say mouthguard because it is something you are familiar with, but the retainers are less than a millimeter thick, and modeled to exactly sit on your teeth. They really are very hard to see once you are wearing them, and after a few days you won't even notice you've got them on.
Oh, I see. So how do I go about it?
Well, first of all, you'll need to come in for an appointment and have a picture, a scan really, of your teeth done. Then we send that off to the lab and they make the first set of retainers. That takes about a week. Then you'll have your first fitting appointment, learn how to take care of the retainers and be given your first set of 3 retainers. You'll have follow-up appointments every month after that, where the dentist will check that everything is going to schedule and give you new set of retainers.
Before you hear the rest of the audio, take some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10.
Would you like to make an appointment now?
Yes, I think I would. They do sound much better than regular braces, and if the cost is the same, then I'd like to do it.
Okay, first of all, can I have your full name?
It's Judith Houlihan.
Could you please spell your surname?
Oh sure, Houlihan.
Thanks, and your address, phone number and email please.
My address is 62, Hackett Place, Doncaster. I'll give you my mobile phone number, it's 0413-428-9667. And my email is judith62@yahoo.com.
Thank you. Now, I'm afraid we only have one appointment free this week, Thursday at 10:30 am, but there are more slots available the week after.
Oh, I'm afraid I couldn't do Thursday this week. Do you have anything on a Tuesday after 2 p.m.?
Let's see. Yes, Tuesday the 15th I have a free slot at 3:15 p.m. Would that suit you?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay then. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
If you think of anything, write it down so you remember to ask the dentist at your appointment.
Oh, that's a good idea, thanks, I will.
You're welcome and I'll see you Tuesday.
Yes, thanks again, bye.
Goodbye.
This is the end of section 1.
This IELTS listening practice is not endorsed by IELTS. Listening section 2. You are going to hear a tour guide giving a short talk about Windsor Castle. You have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 15.
We will be arriving at Windsor in a few minutes, but before we begin the tour I'm going to give you a quick overview. Windsor Castle is a royal residence that is notable for its long association with the English and later British royal family and for its architecture. Originally designed to protect Norman dominance around the outskirts of London and oversee a strategically important part of the River Thames, Windsor Castle was built as a motte and bailey, with 3 wards surrounding a central mound. Gradually replaced with stone fortifications, the castle withstood a prolonged siege during the First Barons' War at the start of the 13th century. Henry III built a luxurious royal palace within the castle during the middle of the century, and Edward III went further, rebuilding the palace to make an even grander set of buildings in what would become known as the most expensive secular building project of the entire Middle Ages in England. Edward's core design lasted through the Tudor period, during which Henry VIII and Elizabeth I made increasing use of the castle as a royal court and centre for diplomatic entertainment. Windsor Castle survived the tumultuous period of the English Civil War, when it was used as a military headquarters by parliamentary forces and a prison for Charles I. At the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, Charles II rebuilt much of Windsor Castle with the help of the architect Hume, creating a set of extravagant Baroque interiors that are still admired. After a period of neglect during the 18th century, George III and George IV renovated and rebuilt Charles II's palace at colossal expense, producing the current design of the state apartments, full of Rococo, Gothic and Baroque furnishings. Queen Victoria made a few minor changes to the castle, which became the centre for royal entertainment for much of her reign. Windsor Castle was used as a refuge by the royal family during the Luftwaffe bombing campaigns of the Second World War and survived a fire in 1992. It is a popular tourist attraction, a venue for hosting state visits, and the preferred weekend home of Queen Elizabeth II, so it is still very much a lived-in and working castle. You will have 3 hours at the castle, which should be plenty of time to see everything, and don't forget to pick up your complimentary audio guides as they are full of interesting information.
Before you hear the rest of the audio, take some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Now if you can take a look at your map, you'll see the suggested walking route, but you don't have to follow this if you don't want to. To begin with, look at the center bottom of the map, that is ticket office, where you will be given your audio guides. To enter the castle proper, I will walk you down the street and left into Castle Hill Street. On the right as we walk to Castle are the Jubilee Gardens, which are not part of the tour but are lovely to walk through. Some of you might want to do that before entering the castle proper. Windsor Castle occupies 13 acres and combines the features of a fortification, a palace, and a small town. It has 2 basically rectangular courts that are separated by the round tower on the hill in the middle. The western court is the lower ward, and the eastern court is called the upper ward. The walking route takes you from the entrance, around the base of the round tower to the upper ward complex and into the state apartments. As the Queen is not in residence, these are open to the public and well worth visiting. The rooms contain many historical and art treasures and Queen Mary's dollhouse. If you look out the southern windows, you will also get a glimpse of the quadrangle, which is enclosed by the state apartments to the north, private apartments to the east and the south wing. After you leave the apartments, you can then go into the round tower itself. We have arranged for you to be able to go into the tower and climb to the roof, which gives a spectacular view of the surrounding town and countryside. After the round tower, go back the way you came, down the hill, towards the lower ward. On the north side of the lower ward is St. George's Chapel, the spiritual home of the Order of the Garter. At the east end of St. George's Chapel is the Lady Chapel, originally built by Henry III in the 13th century and converted into the Albert Memorial Chapel between 1863 and 1873 by Queen Victoria. At the west end of the lower ward is the Horseshoe Cloister, where the clergy live, and behind the Horseshoe Cloister is the Curfew Tower, one of the oldest surviving parts of the lower ward and dating from the 13th century. On the south side of the ward is King Henry VIII's Gateway, which bears the coat of arms of Catherine of Aragon and is where you will exit the castle and then head back to the bus. Remember to be at the bus by 4:45 p.m. for our return to London. But before you do, you might want to have afternoon tea at the Undercroft Cafe, which has recently opened to visitors in Edward III's medieval Undercroft, one of the oldest surviving spaces in the 1,000-year-old castle. I will be there from 3:30 p.m. onwards if you want to ask me any questions about Windsor. Okay, we are arriving now at the car park, so if you could all get ready and remember to take all your belongings with you.
This is the end of section 2. Listening section 3. You are going to hear two students talking to their tutor about a presentation. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen and complete questions 21 to 24.
Hi, so your presentation is a short history of human exploration, is that right?
Yes, from prehistory to the modern era.
Here's an outline we did of what we've organized so far.
Thanks, so it seems to focus on periods rather than people.
Yes, there is so much information that we decided to be quite general, except for people who really impacted the topic.
So how will you introduce your topic?
Well, at first, we thought of just having a simple opening slide and a very then getting straight into the body of the presentation. But we think that maybe we need to define some terms in the introduction, to ensure that everyone can understand the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, we especially want to make sure people understand the difference between exploration, discovery and invention, so we will make that clear in the introduction.
That's a good idea, but please remember to keep it short. The introduction is supposed to be quite brief. You have a lot to cover, how are you going to organize it?
Well, luckily there seems to be consensus on the different tiers, so we thought we could find the explorer that most epitomizes each one, and how they impacted exploration in that time.
The other thing we've had to do is narrow our focus and concentrate mostly on European explorers. If we tried to include the whole world, there is just too much to fit into the presentation.
But it's sad, I really wanted to include people like Zheng He, whose voyages were before most of the famous European voyages of discovery by Columbus, de Gala, and Magellan, but of the same era.
How many periods will that include then?
Only 4 actually. Ancient, from 5000 BCE to around 400 CE, medieval, which is from the 5th century to the 15th century, the age of discovery from the 1400s to 1600s, and the modern era from the 18th century to the present. We'll be presenting them chronologically, I think.
Before you hear the rest of the recording, take some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and complete questions 25 to 30.
That sounds sensible. So you've mentioned that for the introduction you were thinking of defining your terminology. I think that is a very good idea.
Okay, we will do that then, and keep it brief. For the first section, Ancient Exploration, we've decided to use Alexander the Great, but what we really need to do is to find a good recent map to show exactly how far he traveled and the modern names of the places he went to. We think that will make it easier for the audience.
Yeah, we can't assume that people are familiar with the ancient names. Although it might be a good idea to also place the ancient terms next to the modern ones, as all the sources use the ancient titles.
I do think that it is important to use the ancient as well as the modern place names, so do make sure to include them. Now, who are you using for the medieval period?
The Vikings. I know most people don't see them as explorers, but they went to many places and even America. They were innovative navigators and boat builders, which enabled their voyages of discovery. We do need to verify the sources for some of our information, but I think most of it is accurate.
Yes, you must be able to get reliable and accurate sources, and don't forget to include them all in your submission.
For the Age of Discovery we have far too many explorers, which makes it harder. So instead of a person, we've gone with a country. Portugal was the first of the great exploring nations, so we are going to focus on its achievements and explorers like da Gama, Cabral, Magellan, and Dias. There is so much information, we will need to sit down and organize it all.
Yes, we've done all our research for this era, we just need to organize it now. It's a similar problem with the modern era, so we've decided to go with space exploration because it has had such an impact on the world, but culturally, politically and technologically.
It's also very modern.
How are you going to present it though? Choose an astronaut or program.
We are going to do it chronologically, from Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite, to the current collaboration between governments and private interests. There are a lot of significant milestones, but we will only mention major ones, like landing on the moon for example. We still need to make a timeline, probably a decade per slide. We think that is the clearest way to present it.
For our conclusion, we thought we could ask the audience if they have any questions on what we've presented while recapping each era with a slide. We need to decide what style of slides to use for the recap, but we thought it would help to keep the questions focused on what we have presented.
Well, it all seems to be coming along well. Once you've got a draft ready, I'd like you to make an appointment and show me. It will be the last chance you have to get feedback before the presentation.
This is the end of Section 3. Section 4. You will hear the beginning of a lecture about computer science from the MIT OpenCourseware series. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
This is 600, also known as Introduction to Computer Science and Programming. My name is Eric Grimson. Together with Professor John Guttag over here, we're going to be lecturing the course this term. I want to give you a heads up. You're getting some serious firepower. John was department head for 10 years, felt like a century. In Course 6, I'm the current department head in Course 6. John's been lecturing for 30 years, roughly. All right, I'm the young guy. I've only been lecturing for 25 years. You can tell I have less gray hair than he does. What I'm trying to say to you is we take this course really seriously. We hope you do as well. But we think it's really important for the department to help everybody learn about computation, and that's what this course is about. What I want to do today is three things. I'm going to start, actually I shouldn't say start, I'm going to do it in the middle, a little bit of administrivia, the kinds of things you need to know about how we're going to run the course. I want to talk about the goals of the course, what it is you'll be able to do at the end of this course when you get through it. And then I want to begin talking about the concepts and tools of computational thinking, which is what we're primarily going to focus on here. We're going to try and help you learn how to think like a computer scientist, and we're going to begin talking about that towards the end of this lecture, and of course throughout the rest of the lectures that carry on. All right, let's start with the goals. And I'm going to give you goals in two levels. The strategic goals are the following. We want to help prepare freshmen and sophomores who are interested in majoring in Course 6 to get an easy entry into the department, especially for those students who don't have a lot of prior programming experience. If you're in that category, don't panic, you're going to get it. We're going to help you ramp in, and you'll certainly be able to start the Course 6 curriculum and do just fine and still finish on target. We don't expect everybody to be a Course 6 major, contrary to popular opinion. So for those of you not in that category, the second thing we want to do is we want to help students who don't plan to major in Course 6 to feel justifiably confident in their ability to write and read small pieces of code. For all students, what we want to do is we want to give you an understanding of the role computation can and cannot play in tackling technical problems, so that you will come away with a sense of what you can do, what you can't do, and what kinds of things you should use to tackle complex problems. And finally, we want to position all students so that you can easily, if you like, compete for things like UROPS and summer jobs, because you'll have an appropriate level of confidence and competence in your ability to do computational problem solving. Those are the strategic goals. Now, this course is primarily aimed at students who have little or no prior programming experience. As a consequence, we believe that no student here is underqualified for this course. You're all MIT students. You're all qualified to be here. But we also hope that there aren't any students here who are overqualified for this course. What do I mean by that? If you've done a lot prior programming, this is probably not the best course for you. And if you're in that category, I would please encourage you to talk to John or I after class about what your goals are, what kind of experience you have, and how we might find you a course that better meets your goals. Second reason we don't want overqualified students in the class. It sounds a little nasty, but the second reason is an overqualified student, somebody who's, programmed for Google for the last 5 years, is going to have an easy time in this course, but we don't want such a student accidentally intimidating the rest of you. We don't want you to feel inadequate when you're simply inexperienced. And so it really is a course aimed at students with little or no prior programming experience. And again, if you're not in that category, talk to John or I after class, and we'll help you figure out where you might want to go. Okay, those are the top level goals of the course. Let's talk sort of at a more tactical level about what do we want you to know.
This is the end of section 4.